What's up, NDL? Been a kind of a long layoff. I'm sure that's been brought up a million times in the chat, but that's okay because the draft is almost here. Friday night is right around the corner. Friday night for part of day one, and then Saturday to cover the rest. So no need to worry. You'll have your team here within the next couple of days. I know some people have been hitting the scrim yard very, very hard. And there's been others that are just kind of like, yeah, just wait and see what happens. But we're going to talk some draft tonight. We'll talk some Wednesday night as well, just to, kind of pass the time as we get closer. So I'm Coach Sammy33, one of your hosts. We also have Coach Doc on here. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Good, good. Looking forward to this.
Yep, you will be in the draft along with me. And then Mr. Vic, you're going to be in the draft too. How are you doing, sir?
I'm all right. Yes, it's good to be in the draft this season. Hopefully, we get some surprises this season too.
It never fails. Day one, there'll be some surprises. You always have some teams that go way earlier than you expect. You have some teams that just keep dropping and no one understands why. Or maybe we do. You're just still surprised to see them drop. So there's a lot to talk about. We're going to talk more G5 than P4, because obviously the outliers, that's where our focus is. But there's definitely some things to talk about leading up to the draft, the teams available, the draft list that we have. Conference realignment is going to make things really interesting for next year's game. And then just the complete exodus, it feels like, of everybody in the league just deciding they want to go in the draft together. Not as many teams kept as you might have expected. So I guess the thing that we'll start with first is looking at the draft list. So just so those that are newer to the league can understand how this works, it's separated into 2 days, but it's one big list. So day one comes first, and those for all the coaches that were able to keep their team, and it's sorted by highest to lowest score. Day two are all the coaches that are fired, sorted the highest to lowest score, followed by, in this case, this season, MJ Kemp, because he's at the back. And then after him, I believe will be all of the new people added to the league. They'll be randomized and then they will be placed in that order following MJ. And that's how we get the full draft list. So, as it was a surprise to some people, you can have a higher score in day two, because someone that had, they only needed, say, 85 points to keep their team as day one. Because they were able to keep their team, they're going to draft higher than you because you got fired. That's the way that it's been. I don't see that changing anytime soon. So that's an explanation of how we get the draft list. With that said, let's talk about the order of the draft. Not going to probably harp on this way too long, but curious what you guys think. I know that you have seen the list because, we're all in the draft. So we've all looked to see where we're at and then see who's picking around us. Were there any surprises in terms of a coach drafting high, that higher than maybe you thought he might draft, or drafting lower than you thought? Just what are some names that stood out to you in the draft order? And whoever wants to go first, got the ball.
Go ahead, Vic.
No, you go ahead, Doc. You go ahead.
So for me, some of the surprises were the and where they finished points wise. Um, I was surprised that Rain left Notre Dame. That was pretty shocking. I was surprised Pat left Utah. I didn't think he would. Um, and MGR leaving Nebraska were the big surprises for me.
The biggest surprise for me was El Jefe with Clemson. I thought he was just gonna stay there. Um, Rain at Notre Dame was a big one. Wilds at Texas Tech was a big one. Those two seemed like they were good at staying where they were. But I guess they want to challenge themselves and go into the draft, and here we are. So those are the three coaches right there that surprised me.
I will co-sign on two. Well, probably on three of them, and then I'll add another that caught my eye. Seeing Rain on the list, I'm not gonna lie, I had to keep refreshing because I thought that that was a mistake. I thought that was like, hey, I'm sorry, I misclicked or it didn't register, so here's my screenshot. I'm actually staying at Notre Dame. So seeing him on the list was a surprise. Wilds on the list was a surprise too, because I saw that looking at the teams available, and then I'll be honest, I looked at the draft order to see where a specific person was drafting. I'm like, man, I hope they fall. I I'm not sure if they're going to be able to fall far enough, but fingers crossed that they go to a certain coach. Won't name any names. El Jefe was kind of like it's kind of funny because he put up a poll. I don't know if you guys saw. He put up a poll in the ACC asking if he should stay, and there's definitely a few people jokingly like get the f out, but it was overwhelmingly for him to leave. I'm like, he's not he's still going to stay anyway. Like he's just, doing something just to pass the time. And when I saw that Clemson was available, I was shocked. Like, what? Did not believe that he would really leave, especially with Clemson being his favorite team. It's hard to get your favorite team. So when you get them, I feel like you try to hold on to them as long as you can because you're just never sure if you'll get the opportunity again. So that was a surprise. But one that surprised me in the G5 was Brady leaving App State. Like, sure, will he be able to get him back if he wanted to? Yeah. But I was surprised to see App State was available. I thought that he would, like, I know he had a little bit of a step back last season, but I thought that he would, like, all right, we're going to get back in there, we're going to grind, and we're going to see if we can get back to get back that conference championship. So I was a little surprised to see him decide to enter the draft. Well, I guess we kind of talked about it with some teams. So if we take away some of the guys that we've already talked about coach wise, are there any other teams that you're surprised seeing available in the draft? And Doc, I'll start with you on this one.
Um, no, like I mean, for the coaches and to see like the surprise for me would have been, like now you know what the points are, right? So, like if G was less than one, you know, does he leave Florida? Like those are the kind of things that so nothing is a real surprise. It looks like everybody that jumped up, that are picking again are picking for either, better teams are going to go back to their teams based upon the how people pick. So there's a few that I'm curious to see who they pick. That's going to be the biggest thing for me in the top 15, I think, or the top 16 with El Jefe.
Okay. What about you, Vic?
The team would be Clemson. Actually, team would be Clemson. Like I said, I really didn't think El Jefe was going to leave. So the team that I'm most surprised that's available to draft at any position is Clemson. Clemson.
Okay. Well, one that stood out to me, and I understand why they're available too. 'Cause
Yeah.
I look at the coach as why, because I felt like Smitty and Penn State was a perfect match, but Smitty is also a guy that's not like he likes to be in different spots. He doesn't like to stay in one spot. He's a mercenary, if you will, as a coach. So I'm not surprised to see him leave, but I am surprised to see them there because just the match with him I thought was a really good fit. Um, I will say that I was surprised to see Memphis and South Florida available. Now, I could understand from Jordan's perspective, like, hey, I was in the MAC last season or the season before. Now, last season, I'm in the American. I have a good run. I make it to the conference championship game. I'm assuming that he's probably going to move up into the P4 now, and that's probably why he entered the draft. But seeing Memphis and Jokers, I'm so used to seeing him there, and he's made a home for himself in the American. I was just surprised to see that he entered the draft. So those are teams that stood out to me. Um, well, there's another thing that stood out to me, and I know it was talked about in an announcement by Nibbler. Because let's be honest, for those of us entering the draft, we've probably had discussions in DMs about, calculating points, who might be where. I know there's a couple of different lists that were kind of circulating, projecting where people may be. And one thing that was not accounted for was the easy points, and it looked like a lot of people missed out on easy points. So going into next season, this is just a friendly reminder for you guys, especially if you're new to the league. Participation points are so easy. It's 40% of your score right off the bat. There really is no reason for anyone to ever get under a 40 in that section. Do your polls, enter your stats, submit your coach reports. The easiest 40 points that you get. Coach reports, your score in terms of your play style, that can ebb and flow, especially if you're new to the league, kind of getting adjusted. And the season success, that'll ebb and flow. But the 40 points, there's no reason that you shouldn't get your 40 points. So it's kind of disheartening to see some people drafting lower than they expected to, but they know it's because they didn't do everything they were supposed to. They missed a couple of polls here. They forgot to submit stats for this game here. Got to get that stuff in. It's easy points. It only benefits you going into, the draft for next season. So I think this might be a wake up call for some people after this current draft list for people to kind of get back on track and do that going forward.
And also to add on to that, an easy schedule for the new guys. Your this if this is your first season coming up, or this is your second season or third season, that's you on your own. But um, the schedule, a good schedule would be to make sure you play your games, and afterwards you have time, like within the window. Like, don't rush to play a game and then you got to go immediately somewhere else, because it's good to get your stats done right after the game. It's not, oh, I'm gonna screenshot everything. Oh, I'm gonna catch it on the Twitch recording. As we see, Twitch can mess up. Now, if you're using YouTube, of course, you can go back to. But a lot of people do use Twitch, and Twitch has been messing up over the course of the off season. So sometimes it won't record that. So if your Twitch is messing up or anything like that, just right after the game, take about a good 20, 30 minutes, maybe less, to go ahead and get your stats done after every game. Then wait 24 hours, then do your coach reports. And every Friday or every other Friday, do your polls. Every Friday. Friday, Friday, Friday. Do your polls on Friday.
I'm guilty of the
That's
polls
an
because I
easy
try to wait
schedule.
till Saturday, and I'll admit I got all my polls done this season, but there were some that I was sweating. Like I got to do this now, so I got to stop what I'm doing and just, you know, I got to get it in now. Um, that is a good point. Schedule extra times. And most people schedule like, hey, like just trying to schedule a game, you're scheduling an hour to play the game, but being able to do your stats at the same time will be super helpful. Stats don't take that long. It's just the process of getting it. I know on the phone it is harder. There are some people that do it on the phone. and it's not as easy as you would like it to be. I'm fortunate my PlayStation is set up at my computer, so with the dual monitors, I can just talk to chat and then put in my stats while I'm doing it. Or when I'm making my recaps, I usually do YouTube recaps. I have the stats there to add to them, so I just do it when I'm doing that. But putting it in after right after makes things much easier because it's less likely for, life to happen. Life happens sometimes and you just never get a chance to get back. And those do add up. It can be the difference in a couple of draft spots. It could be the difference in you being able to keep your team. So it is important to do those when you can. Like, it's super simple. It's just easy points. You got to get them while you can get them. But we're going to talk about the G5 for a little bit. We'll come back to picks here in just a sec and talk more in general. But obviously, we love talking the G5 here, and there's going to be a lot of changes going around in the G5 this upcoming season because, man, there are so many teams in the draft. It feels like these conferences are just empty. Conference USA, like completely off the map. We all just, shook hands with our commissioner and we ran out there and just hopped in the cars like, students leaving for summer, just leaving campus. Everyone gone. Um, you've got the American, only two teams were kept. The MAC, only two teams were kept. The Sun Belt has three teams staying. I always like the Sun Belt because it has the two divisions, so it makes tiebreakers a little bit easier to manage. And you've got the Mountain West of all the teams, or sorry, all the conferences in the NDL. That's the team, or sorry, team stuck in my head. That's the conference that kept the most, five. So even less than half that conference is staying as well. So I'll ask you guys, are you surprised to see so many teams just just so many teams or draft spots available? Everyone's just moving. I know it's kind of typical sometimes with the third season, but even so, I was really surprised to see so many teams empty. Wonder how you guys feel about that.
I agree. I normally you do get a lot of movement on that third season and people, jockeying their position for next year, but I can't think in the 34 seasons I've been in this league that I've seen so much movement in the last, in any draft that we've had.
Well, with me, I could kind of see it coming, except for I think one or two of the teams Doc said, and one of the teams you said, Sammy, and the three teams I said. Outside of that handful or five or six teams that we named already, I can pretty much see the writing on the wall with a lot of people going because you're setting yourself up for next game. So we don't know how the game is going to turn out, like as far as like abilities and boost and uh, player ratings and stuff like that. So it's one big mystery and gameplay itself. So it's one big mystery, and you got to jockey yourself for the best position that you can put yourself in to get the best result going into the next game. So I can definitely see why there were a lot of people going into the draft this season.
Yeah, I want to correct myself here real quick. The Mountain West had the most teams kept in the G5, but overall in the NDL, the conference that had the most teams kept was the ACC. Six teams stayed in the ACC. So looking at the G5 real quick, you got the MAC. No, I don't think anyone was surprised seeing Chip stay at Central Michigan. You got Football Kelly staying there as well. In the American, you got Ice staying with Navy and Drew Baca staying with North Texas. Don't think anyone was really surprised by either one of those. Maybe surprised, like I was surprised seeing Jokers leave Memphis. But outside of that, I don't think that's like super, super crazy. Um, got the Sun Belt, Glizzy staying, third time's the charm. Can he get to the conference championship and win it this time? He's had back-to-back losses in the conference championship game, so it's another shot for him to get there. He's staying at James Madison. He obviously knows that team really well, played with them really well last season, so try to get back there. We have AU Tiger at Texas State staying, and I'm never going to say his name right. I don't know how I've been in the league this long and can't say his name right still, but cool. So I'm not even going to try. So, um, I do not know how to pronounce that name. I'll have to ask him one of these days because he's a long time vet. It's kind of embarrassing on my part. And then you have the Mountain West. You've got Utah State staying. This will be his fifth season coming up. San Diego State staying. I believe it's his sixth season coming up. And then you have IROC at Boise, Black Rain at UNLV. It's going to be both of their seventh seasons. And then Mark staying at Wyoming. So going back to back there. And then don't want to forget, because you got the one independent now in UConn. Dave staying, no surprise there, of course. And then Washington State, Tim staying there, no surprise. Spell it out. I I don't want to embarrass myself, Chase. I looked at the name and I put my head down. Like, I feel bad. He's a good dude. I just don't know how to pronounce that name. So the G5,
I'll
what's up?
try. I'll
You
try.
be my guest.
I think the Y is silent, so it's Raga. I believe the Y is silent. So if it's not, then we're gonna have a whole nother discussion. But I believe the Y is silent.
Look, we had a whole conversation about spelling bees earlier, like last week about spelling bee. And it's stuff like that that would trip you up because you look at how it spells, like I think it's pronounced this way, and it's like you're wrong. You're eliminated. Like, wait, what? So,
I think it's Yarga, and the H is silent. I've played this. I've played him forever. I scrim him all the time, and I've never. I've always known him as Gary or Rags. That's, but I believe the H is silent, and it's
Okay,
Yarga.
Yarga. Okay.
okay, well, I'll go with either one. I'll have to ask him for the
I
fifth
just go by
season.
Rags. That's
Gary's
it's a lot
super
easier to
easy. That's the
pronounce.
easiest one to go off of.
Gary's easy too. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Real
but he was
easy.
a long time coach at Houston, um,
Yeah.
and
Yes, he
then
was. Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Yes, he was.
he took a season off, and he came back to Coastal. So he'll probably be there for a while. He's kind of a creature of habit, and um, he's if you've never played him, I recommend playing him. He's a lot of fun. His offense is a very very hard offense to figure out, and he's a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, he's got from games that I've watched him play. He's got a unique style offense. It reminds me of Cleat Freak
Yeah,
from last season. So unusual and fun to play, but definitely will have you stressed out.
throwing your controller against the wall. That's because there's plenty of times I played him where like I'm just like, God, why do I do this to myself? And I played him enough to know his playbook and what he does, and he still gets me every single time. And I mean, not that I mean my name there on my tag says it all. I'm the worst free agent available, and
Oh man.
it's that's one of the things where like he's just a fun person to play with. So I'm glad that he stuck around and starts another franchise with another team. So that'll be fun to watch him this season in the G5.
Oh, I gotta love the brotherly love in chat here. So Jordan comes in and asks about a team, and his brother comes in and says, "Well, a true Bucks fan would have stayed at USF." Like, yeah, like you get to stay at South Florida. You're playing at Ray J. You left Ray J to go coach somewhere else. The loyalty. I'm just joking. Just joking. but I can't answer. I can't give you a definitive answer. I have to answer you in DM, Jordan, to explain why. Let's talk about the G5 for a little bit, guys. There's going to be not reflective this season, but I think this is something that might impact the draft more so on Saturday than Friday. Going into the next version of the game, we're going to have the re-emergence of the pack. We're going to have a realigned Mountain West, and then we're going to have a new team added to the map. So we had to get clarification because I was wrong. It's shameful that I'm wrong because I'm a alum, Aztec alum. I should know the teams in the conference, but I just kept thinking in my head that North Dakota was going there. So the pack will have 8 teams next season. Right now they have 2. Next season there's going to be 8. So you've got Oregon State, Washington State, who has a coach, Boise State, who has a coach, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State has a coach, Texas State has a coach, and Utah State has a coach. So, saying that to say there's openings potentially looking at the Pac 8 for college football 27. The Mountain West is going to be realigned because obviously, listening to that, you've got some Mountain West teams that are going west toward to the Pac, or however you want to define that. So, in the Mountain West for college football 27, you've got Air Force, Hawaii, Nevada, New Mexico. New team to the game, North Dakota State, and I think pre-pod Doc and Vic were very interested in seeing how that team is going to be rated on next year's game. You have Northern Illinois shifting from the MAC to the Mountain West, and you've got San Jose State, UNLV, and UTEP. So Conference USA losing UTEP, the MAC losing Northern Illinois, and then San Jose State and UNLV breaking off or staying in the Mountain West. Sorry, thinking backwards. And then the MAC to replace Northern Illinois, you have Sacramento State. A lot of change. What do you guys think about it? Anything jump out to you? Are you excited? How you feel about it?
I'm excited because I like the the new Pack 8, Pack 10, Return of the Pack. Um, I, I really think if they do well, now of course Boise is probably going to dominate the first few years, and them in San Diego and Fresno are going to be competing with Washington State, of course, in real life. But I feel like, and this is just in real life, real quick, that if they build up something, that Texas State can have ultimate control in the new pack. Now, on the game and with the coaches that are already there, that's an interesting conference next season. That is a very, very interesting conference. You got Lick and Rock and Big Z and AU Tiger if he does stay at Texas State. That is a good list of Coach Buckeye at Utah State. That's a good list of coaches there. That definitely is. Now with the Mountain West, I think, and this is just me personally, I think out of all those teams outside of UNLV, North Dakota State should be the highest ranked Mountain West team coming into that game. A little insight on that. North Dakota State paid a total of 17, $18 million to get into the Mountain West for potentially one season, but I believe this may be a permanent thing because, like I said, North Dakota State is gonna do work in real life. So in the game, I expect them to be highly rated for next game. And with Sacramento State, it was just a money grab. I expect them to be the worst rated team in the game next season.
Okay.
I agree with everything you just said. I think the biggest surprise is going to be North Dakota State, and they will. I mean, today they're the favorites to win the New Mountain West. They're
Definitely.
uh, they're such a good team, and like I get to watch them sometimes. Being in Minneapolis, we get to watch some of those games, and they're a fun team to watch. Like, I mean, they are a Division 1 team, just kind of bouncing around out there in the middle of the prairie. But there was a lot of talk about them not going because the Fargo Dome isn't a very big facility to be able to support a Division 1 school. So it's going to be interesting to see, how they handle that. Um, so I'm interested.
I mean,
Sacramento State,
it's
I'm not super thrilled about because they're not good enough for teams to fly out west to play them. You know what I mean? I mean that's a win on your schedule, and you're playing
yeah.
but like the Pac-12 would have been a better fit for them, especially with them having no money. I just look at it as being like the Cleveland Indians in major leagues, being on, the junkie planes and, you know, like just fighting to survive to stay afloat, so to speak. But
Yeah,
I'm really excited about North Dakota State.
it's definitely a money grab. A little inside scoop on that. They are paying $23 million to join the Mountain West, and they don't really have the money for that. They're using a lot of student based revenue to pay for that, and even the students themselves are kind of saying that they're trying to put more in the sports than they are the actual school. And so, best believe next year they're going to be playing the Ohio States and the Michigans and the um shit Oklahomas or Alabamas in the world because they gonna need the money. So they're gonna suck. And one of their goals was like, I think the athletic director said, we can be like UMass, which is definitely not the greatest comp you would ever say as an athletic director.
Wow. Well, let me turn this on its head for a sec. The Pac 8's going to be, wait, it's going to be different now. And I'll go first on this since I don't really have anything to offer in the last spot. So you got the Pac 8, which is a new group, the Mountain West realign, and then definitely we'll need Doc to chime in with his thoughts that he shared about Sacramento State. But before we get to that, I asked you guys in the Pac and the Mountain West, which team do you think benefits the most? And I'm talking about in the NDL from this realignment. And I'll go first. So in the Pac, I think that it's going to be Washington State. And the reason being is that Tim has been there for a handful of seasons now. And I know it's been talked about in the past with him being, he is a essentially a G5, just like UConn without a home. Because I mean, it's just them, Washington State and Oregon in the pack. Now you actually add in a conference. You're adding in quality teams in Boise and San Diego State, Fresno, and others. Now you are, potentially going to have a conference championship game. It's something that Washington State hasn't had. So if they could have a good season, it's like, well, is their schedule going to be strong enough? They don't get an extra game to play to get those extra eyes at the very end of the season. So I think it really benefits Washington State going forward to have this conference because it gives them some extra oomph when we start to talk about scheduling and other things in the Massey and in that realm. For the Mountain West, I am honestly not really sure. I think from a talent perspective, I'm kind of torn between UNLV and UTEP. It's gonna feel so weird not seeing UNLV play teams that I've watched them play for years on the regular. Yeah, they'll still have Nevada, they'll still have New Mexico, but I'm used to seeing them play against CSU and Boise and SDSU. So it's definitely going to be different, especially, Rain's been there a while now, so he's been playing against the same coaches. It's weird that they're just being pulled away from him. And then UTEP, we talked about pre-pod, we talked about in the draft last season, as you brought up, Vic. They're a pretty solid squad. Can they get better? We'll see. Shifting from Conference USA to the Mountain West conference name that has a little bit more prestige in the NDL. So I think I'm really curious to see who gets UTEP and how they do with them as well. I'm curious for you guys, which teams do you see in each conference benefiting the most from these moves?
Well, I see out of the, I agree with you in the Pac 8. I believe Tim and Washington State have the most to gain because they're going to have full on competition. It's not just them in Oregon State with the independent G5 level schedule. They still going to be a part of the new G6 now. But um, they're going to actually, if they can get to some of the heights they got in previous seasons, they can actually be in the conversation for the CFP with having an actual conference and potentially an actual conference championship. Now in the Mountain West, it all depends on EA. If EA does North Dakota State dirty, then it's gonna be Black Rain, of course. I feel like he's gonna benefit anyway, but I feel like if EA doesn't do them dirty, I feel like whoever gets North Dakota State, because it's brand new. It's absolutely brand new. It's a clean slate. Um, they're going to have the talent in that conference if EA does the ratings correctly. So I feel like whoever has that team, and of course Black Rain and UNLV is going to benefit the most.
Okay. What about you, Doc?
I'm with everybody on both of them. I think that, you know, Lick has the most to gain by getting into a conference and having that championship because like thinking about it as you guys were talking about it makes me think about like is that a reason why Rain left Notre Dame, right? Like because when you're not in a conference and you don't have that conference bid, like, just like in real life, Notre Dame doesn't make it because they're not in a conference. So, that kind of gives that added gain to you by getting into a conference. I think EA will screw it up and North Dakota State will not be the best team in the Mountain West. But I do agree that if when it comes down to it all, Black Rain would probably be the leader in the clubhouse with the way the conference lines up.
And I'll be immature for a sec. Doc, you brought up something in the pre-pod chat that had me and Vic kind of laughing because it never dawned on me. So if you would like to share it with the rest of the league so that they are aware,
Yeah.
the new rivalry in the MAC.
So I was, yeah. So in the Mac, you have, I was reading uh, threads, and there was this thing that came across that said this year in the Mac, Ball State will be playing Sac State. And so I came up with a rivalry name of the Ball Sack Trophy. And so we just kind of all giggled about the Ball Sack Trophy and what that trophy would look like would be quite humorous. So, but never thought about it, would never cross my mind. It just amazes me that the people that do think about these things is just amazing.
And I want to throw in my joke in there. If you
Oh
don't
yeah, yeah, yeah,
call it
yeah.
if you don't call it the ball sack trophy game, you can always call it the torn groin classic.
Uh, uh,
Always do that. Always do that.
Uh, it'll be interesting to see Sac State in the MAC, and good luck to whoever gets them. Who knows? Maybe we'll find our next Jose coming in and taking them in CF 27. So we'll have to see.
Nah, that ain't happening. Not Sac State. Hell no.
Well, there is something else that we want to talk about. So we're going to talk about this a little more detail on Wednesday. We would like to talk about the art of making a pick. So we're obviously going to focus on the G5 quite a bit Wednesday, as we'll probably talk about teams. So not trying to play spoiler for anyone or ruin anyone's surprise, but there's definitely some teams that have stood out. I've got a list of about 25 teams. I don't know how far we'll get in, but just kind of talking about some teams that are interesting to us for various reasons, whether it's ratings, whether it's situation, whether it's certain players and schedule stuff. We'll have to see. But we like to talk about that more in depth next episode. This episode, we're going to talk in general about the art of making a pick because there's a lot of things that you can consider in what you do when your name is called to submit your pick. So I'm really curious what you guys think, what you might want to add, and kind of maybe what your thought process is going to be. So there's a group of things that I listed here to consider going into this draft. There's win goal. Is it something that you think you can reach given, picking the team? Depending on where you pick, you'll at least know the teams you're playing, so you'll have the ratings there. But the question is, who are you going to be playing against? You may not know that until later in the draft, depending on where you pick. You may see some, you may not see some. Conference goals, those will be set. That's still being worked on. We should, I believe, end of Tuesday at the absolute latest, but I'm pretty sure Monday is when those will be updated because the ratings had to get adjusted with the latest update. So win goals got adjusted, so now conference goals are getting adjusted too. That's the last part. Rivalry games, how many do you have? Who are they against? Who's home and away? And who the coach is? That might be something that might matter to some. Are you picking for this year's game? You picking for next year's game? Are you going all in to try to have your best season or maybe your best run for a CFP bid this season? Or are you looking at, hey, I like this roster. I think this could be a good team on next year's game. So I'm basically future proofing and just picking this team, try to hold on to them and build a bank going into next year's game. Do you have a favorite school? Do you have a school that you attended? Are you picking one of those? Are you picking a team based on the realignment? Hey, I want to join this conference. I know these teams are being moved around. Let me lock in a spot now so I don't have to worry about trying to jump in when 27 drops. And then the last thing, who else is in your conference, which kind of goes back to the win goal. Who's on your schedule? People that you enjoy playing, people that you're excited to play, or maybe someone that you don't want to play. Who knows? So I'm curious for you guys when it comes to the draft, because we're all in the draft, we're going to have different answers, I think. What do you look at in terms of building your draft board? And when it comes time to make the pick, what things are really important to you?
So for
One.
me,
Go
oh,
ahead. Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Vic.
Yeah.
No, go
No,
ahead.
you go ahead.
So for me, I like the first in 25, I had my strategy. I had the 20th pick, um, and I was like, I'm taking Virginia Tech. Like that's the team I'm taking. And then if for some reason Virginia Tech wasn't there, I was going to take Pitt because I figured Pitt would be there, and that was my plan. And then I got to um, as the teams were being taken, I'm like, yeah, I don't want Virginia Tech anymore. So, and then I was like, well, I don't want Pitt either because it's in the ACC. So now here I am. I had nobody else. And so I went with Tulane, which was a huge mistake, but I like their uniforms. So that was my pick process. But then when I got Oregon State, I enjoyed playing with them for a while, and I just got tired of playing with them. But for me, I just go with what team that like I really started playing with teams in this draft because this is the first draft I've been since I got Oregon State, and so I really have been trying out teams, and I have like my ultimate goal is to end up in the Mountain West. And if I don't get that, then I have teams outside of the Mountain West that I'm interested in. So I've been doing a lot of playing, and so that's kind of just been my experience with it. It's like when you have that top 20 pick and you just watch, like for me, it's about who's going to be in that conference. And is it going to be a tough conference? Is it going to be a fun conference? Because all of that comes into play. I think it comes into play for everybody. But for me, it's about, is it going to be fun? Is it going to be tough? What's it going to be? So I kind of, this year I've sprinkled around, and I have about 8 teams that I'm interested in. So
What made you renege on Pitt?
same reason that I didn't want to, because the ACC was starting to fill up with some good coaches, and my ultimate goal was to stay somewhere, and so I was just like, well, maybe I can go somewhere fun, that, and because I didn't see me being successful at Virginia Tech, and I didn't see myself being successful at Pitt, so I was like, well, maybe I'll just take Tulane because they have pretty uniforms. And so I did. I went in the draft. I got Oregon State, and I was there ever since. So that was just kind of my. I didn't. I was so locked in on those two teams and those two teams only. And sometimes, whenever you see those conferences fill up, then you're like, oh man, this is going to be rough. And so, what's plan B? Well, I didn't have a plan C. I had a plan B, but A and B were in the same conference. So that didn't work out very well for me. So it's really about like what it for me. It's about how I feel about the people in the league. You know, the competition in the league. Is it going to be fun? Am I going to struggle? Because nobody wants to struggle, and that's kind of why I like the independence, because I got to, like Oregon State. I got to build my own schedule and have fun with that. So that's kind of what kept me around. But then playing with Oregon State's quarterback kind of made me leave. So that's kind of why I'm walking away this year. But that's
Yeah,
just how I always view. That's what I look at whenever I draft.
I saw that firsthand with that Oregon State quarterback.
Oh man, it was rough.
It
I didn't
was
think I
rough.
mentioned it to you. Like as
It
soon
was
as he
no,
threw
I
that first
saw it.
pick,
Oh, I saw it. It was rough.
as soon as he threw that first pick, I think I shot you a message, said it's over. Like he wasn't coming back.
It went
When you
downhill.
know it's
It did go
happening.
downhill. It did go downhill after that. I do remember. It did go downhill. It went
So, but yeah,
downhill
that's
fast.
my keys in drafting, is just really, knowing, being in the league for as long as, we've been in the league. You know the players, you scrimmage against the players, you know who you like to play, you know if it's going to be competitive, and those are the things that I look for. I care less if I win or I lose. I'm just here to have fun, and that's all it's all about for me.
For me, it's about feel of the team. So going into, I can speak previously, because San Jose State and UCLA were kind of random ones for me. I just was like, hey, I like their colors. Um, but going into 32, season 32 of last game, I know I had a good feel. I said I was going to go into the G5 and I had a good feel with Sam Houston. I've scrimmaged, people with Sam Houston, and I had a good feel with them. It wasn't the win or the loss in the scrimmage. It was just how well I do playing with this team. It's all about me and how I do. And does it fit well with how I want to play? And it felt good. And, turned around, had a good season with San Jose State. So knowing that I was going in the draft for this game, here it was all about feel. And I don't know what came over me. I had a list of 4 teams. Um, one of them was West Virginia. The first one was West Virginia. That was the first team in my head. That was the first team on my mind. I don't know why. It just so happened to be it. And so first day we was able to download the game, picked them in the scrimmage. White went 80 yards to the crib, to the house. First play. I said, oh, this may be my team. I ain't never did that before. First play, all right. So scrimmaged again, third play, took it 75 yards to the house. Oh, this is different. Played with the other 3 teams on my list. Did well with them as well. It was some highlights with them as well. Um, but the love for West Virginia was there because it was just like highlight plays. And it was just like, oh, I can move up and down with this offense, da da da. And so when I picked them, and then the first play that I ever had with them in season, I took it to the house as well. And it was just like, oh yeah, it's the perfect fit. So I go off perfect fit for me. Then I go, I actually go Wingo. I go Wingo and then conference goals and then rivalry. Now in this season, this season is basically like season 32 of last game where you could be picking for next season or you could go all out. I went the first go around when we came back, I went all out for season 32 to finish out CFB 25. This year I'm kind of torn in between. So I don't know which one is going to play out, but I'm kind of torn in between playing for next season's game, next year's game, or just going all out again for the last season of this game. My bailout plan, if some of the teams I want the most get picked before I pick, I'm gonna draft for next season's game and pick one of those schools that's available for the new pack 8. That's my backup. That's my last result, basically.
Okay. There's two things I just
So
thought
Vic, I
about.
got
What? Go ahead.
I just have a question for Vic. So when you so one of your you said feel is your biggest thing. So how many teams do you normally have a feel for that you go into the draft with?
Um, I have a list, but then I will play scrimmages, and I'm gonna play a bunch of them this week. Because I didn't last week for whatever reason. But I'm gonna play a whole bunch of them this week with some of the teams, and then run it back with some of the top teams on my list and see how do I play with them? Like, do I move the ball down, up and down? Is it easy for me? Is it
Right.
easy for me to keep it as simple as possible and not nerd out on football? Is it easy for me to get up and down the field? And do I have a legit defense that I can count on as well? Not only, because especially with defense, you have to count on the defensive AI to help you out because you can't use everybody.
Right.
So can I have a defense that I can rely on that if I'm the linebacker and the corner won't get burnt on the outside and it's wide open? Can I rely on that corner?
Right.
So
All right.
I feel for that on that side of the ball. So it's just ease of play for me. Like how easy is it for me? If I feel like it's easy to play with a certain team, then that's gonna be my number one team. Like with West Virginia, it felt so easy for me, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I knew it was gonna be kind of a struggle because once you get past the safeties, they not catching you. So at least on the offensive side of the ball, I was like, hey, I can work with that. I can try to patchwork defense here and there, but for the most part, I love how this offense plays, and it's so easy for me. So that's why I went with them.
All right. It always I'm always curious whenever people talk about fit and things of that nature. Um,
Yeah,
like
because you don't at the end of the day, you don't want a team like I'm just giving teams as example. If you're picking where you're picking, I'm picking where I'm picking, what Sammy's picking where he's picking. You don't want, say you're a run heavy guy. You don't want to pick a team that has a bad offensive line. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
you don't want to pick that team because you're a run heavy type of guy. So you're gonna want a team that fits that style. Say if Sammy's a high tempo, no huddle type of guy, he don't want to pick Iowa. He's not picking Iowa.
Right.
Or somebody of that ilk because he can't go no huddle up tempo. You know,
Yep.
so it's all about fit and how you want to play, and does that team play how you want to play?
Yeah, that's it. Because a lot of people just can think that any team can just fit whatever system that they want to run, and I'm finding that that's not the case.
No, not at
So
all.
that's
Not at all.
yeah. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I can't speak on this draft because obviously we're still waiting for it, but my draft history since we've been back, this draft history and there's a lot of reasons to want to go in the draft. And I think the main thing I think about when I make my pick is what is my ultimate goal? So probably gonna make me sound like a little bit of an ass, but I'll just pull up my coach history so I can explain why. So recent memory, I can think of picking Florida State. And Florida State I thought it was a good fit for my play style. And I was excited to play against El Jefe. I saw what he was doing initially when he joined the ACC, and I wasn't intimidated by Phil Maffa because I have had to play IROC a bunch over the years. I know what it's like to have to deal with a disgusting running back. So I'm like, hey, I'm game for it. Let's see what we can do. But as I stayed there, the defense was definitely a concern. And what Vic was saying about what can I do schematically? It really had to alter what I like to do defensively because with Florida State, you had the impact corner. Can't remember his name right now, but he definitely was not impacting anything because he was just not playing well. Didn't play well in zone or man, didn't tackle well, so he's definitely a liability. So knowing that, I have to scheme things up to try to help him, which means either I have to shade or I have to try to push other players over to help him because I know I can't rely on him, and it makes things really complicated. So defensively was definitely a struggle on this year's game, that opening season, because I couldn't rely on him, and it made me have to figure out what type of defense can I run where I'm not exposing him or putting him in bad bad spots, even if it's making it difficult to play with the other 10. Payton the year before was really nice because having him and having two corners that could play press and pretty much take away a lot of things, the defense looked different. So trying to figure out what works is unlike Vic, me and Vic have talked about it a lot. I don't scrim at all. My scrims are actually the NDL Cup. So I look at the ratings. I may look at some abilities, but I kind of look at the ratings and say, well, with the way I like to play offense, does this work? If not, what type of offense would best suit these guys at the skill position? Okay, my offensive line isn't great. So if it's not great, how would I run the ball? What type of passing game would I be able to run with this unit? And then trying to figure that out. And it makes it a little bit harder. One thing I was thinking about while you guys were talking, we never had to worry about this in the past in the NDL. Now we have to worry about ratings being adjusted. So literally having people disappear off your roster. So I had that with New Mexico on last year's game. Having people upgrade or downgrade. I can think of Genty type. I think Genty was like he was a good running back on last year's game until he started getting his upgrades with the badges, and then he became the Genty that we all saw in highlights and stuff. So like that to some extent factors in like would you want to pick a team that you think actually may not do well in real life because then you're potentially looking at their ratings are going to downgrade and remember all your goals are locked in at the start of the season. So if your team is downgraded, it makes it harder, on paper to achieve those goals because now your team is worse, other teams might be better, that gap widens and it puts a little more pressure on you. Um, just a lot of ways you can go with it. I'm trying to pull up my coach history because the one thing that stood out to me, I'm kind of like Smitty for the most part as a mercenary, but sometimes it's the objective. Like, what are you trying to do with your pick? Um, Early on in the NDO, I could definitely say there were a handful of times that I may have picked a team because it was on a specific team schedule and like, hey, like respect the coach, love the coach, but I want this team open. So, hey, the only way that I can help get them open is to help get the guy fired. So let me go in the conference or even potentially to a rival and play that team. Um, Maybe it's the conference that you play in, as you said, Doc. There's the Mountain West that I was in, and was it season 30? I think Vic, you were in there as well. Super fun season,
Yeah,
really good group of guys, and I really had no idea who to go with. And I remember talking to IROC like, this is gonna suck because you're not on my schedule, but you guys look like a really fun group of guys to play with. I'm going to the Mountain West, and that solely was the reason. It wasn't even trying to parlay it into a top pick. It's just I want to go somewhere where I can have fun. Like coming into Western Michigan, that team was rated high but slow, which is a bad mix on this game. And the Mountain West was just, man, it was a blast. No bad games in there, win or lose, they were all fun. I think what Tim, I played, I played Jeff Daddy, hadn't played him in a while. Like just a lot of vets there, a lot of familiar names and faces. So it was really cool to be able to spend a season in that conference. So that definitely, especially when you only have so many out of conference games you can play. If you want to play someone that you may not be able to schedule out of conference, that's a way to, potentially get them on the schedule. Like, well, I know you don't have a spot, I don't have a spot. We can play each other in conference and still have that opportunity to get that game in. So just open up some windows there. I think the best thing about it is honestly there is no wrong answer. Different things matter differently to people. Like, hey, this is a good team, CFP run. This is a good team amongst this conference, opportunity to win a conference championship. A lot of my friends are in this conference. I can just join this conference and we can play against each other. Nice, relaxed game. New school, I want to be the first one to have it. There's all kinds of reasons to pick a team, and there's really no wrong answer. And it's interesting to see once the draft starts, why. Like, I'm more of I don't necessarily always care about the outcome. I care about the thought process and the why. So hopefully this draft will be able to talk to some of the coaches when they make their picks, so you could have the how this came to be, the why it came to be, so I could understand the thought process into picking said team. To me, that's my favorite part of the draft.
Yes, indeed. I remember season 30. That was a good season. We was boy. We represented the Mountain West that season.
Yeah, I think that is I think that is my favorite. That's my favorite season in the NDL since we've been back.
Mine too. Mine too. That's my favorite season overall because, of course, I wasn't here before the restart. But that's been my favorite season so far. Season 30.
Yeah, I think 14 probably would be my favorite season. Well, I guess 18 would be the favorite, but 14 from just like mentally, I'd say is probably my favorite season. It's interesting because I remember when I took Tulane in season 31, I had no idea who to pick. I had an idea of who I wanted. Me and a coach talked, and when he let me know who he was taking, um, I really didn't have any other. I did not have a backup plan. So with that team being off the board, I kind of had to scramble. I'm not even gonna lie, the Tulane season, I put 15 to 20 names in the wheel of names and literally spun the wheel, and that's how I got Tulane. Like, I had no idea who to pick. I think my backup plan was Kentucky, but then Jason and Kager were behind me, and I know they're Kentucky fans, so I'm like, hey, I think Kager had talked about Kentucky, so I'm like, oh well, I'll just pass on them. One of you guys will take them, and then neither one of them took them. Like, well, if I had known that, I would have took them. I mean, Tulane, obviously, I'm not going to complain about the way that worked out. It was a really good season, but I honestly had no idea. And when thankfully it wasn't a hard draft, it was a slow draft, so I had some time to maybe consider. I'm like, yeah, screw it, put them on a wheel, spin whoever I get, and nice jerseys, fun season. Can't complain too much. I can't really think of anything else like as a factor in terms of what goes into a pick. Um, I feel like for the most part, guys will start to reach out when the picks are coming. So they may have a list of teams available. And hey, I know you're picking 3 picks ahead of me, but who are you looking at? So maybe if you're looking at a team I'm looking at, just take them off the board and make your 5 minutes easier. Or vice versa, someone picking behind you, like, hey, you're picking right behind me. Like, who are you looking at taking? That way I have a couple extra minutes if I need to make a decision on who to pick. Should be fun.
Yeah,
Should be fun.
yeah. I feel like most people go off win goals. Actually, I feel like that's the number one thing that people go off of is projected win goals.
I would agree that I think that that's
Because I've
everybody's trying to get the next best team, right? And so
yeah,
how do I get the win goal?
yeah, because we've seen pretty good examples in the past and in past drafts by several people. One he didn't. One example he didn't pick very high, but it's just one example that we do have is the governor, 6 feet. Um, he picked Kent State last year, and they had a win goal of, I believe, what, two? Is that right, Sam? It's
Yeah.
two,
Yep. Two.
two,
Yep.
and he got that win goal within the first block. And so it's all, and it was just roses from there. Like he could have just stopped playing after that second or third win. He could have just stopped playing, but he ended up getting the bowl and ended up getting a very, very, very high pick this season, all because of the Wingo. So I feel like Wingo is the number one factor when picking. Now, if you're picking high up, then no. But I feel like from about some people in the top 10, that may be a factor, and that's why we see certain teams get picked. But I really feel like from 20 on back, I feel like Wingo becomes the number one thing.
Well, let me ask this question then. Like we're all drafting in different, different slots in the draft.
There we are.
What is the ideal spot for you? Like obviously number one would be great because you get to pick the team you want and you don't have to worry about anything else. But let's assume you're outside the top 10. For you, what is the ideal range you would like to pick in and why?
But Vic,
If I'm outside the top 10,
Yep,
where I'm at right now,
mid 30s.
yeah, about the 30s in general, maybe late 20s. That's where I would want to pick. If I'm not in the top 10, then I'm right where I want to be.
Why is that?
Because I've had success in this area, and it's an overall look of what's to come and what has came before you. Like you can basically draw an outline of each conference because it's gonna be one conference, probably the SEC, that's gonna be filled or close to filled by the time you get to me at 36.
Yeah.
So you have an outline. So you have an outline of, hey, I damn sure don't want to go to the SEC because this person, this person, this person. That's when you factor in the coaches and the rivalries and all that. Once you get to it, if you think that you're going to get your team, then you factor in everything else with the coaches and who's your rival and everything like that. So, like, if I'm picking Mississippi State, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying I am. But if I'm
but
picking
you're saying
Mississippi, yeah, just saying. Yeah, no break. I got breaking news. I got breaking news, but that ain't it. That ain't it. That is not it. That is not the breaking news. But for them as an example, if I was like, oh yeah, 36, I'm picking Mississippi State, and then it's like the top 10 goes all SEC, then I'm like, you know what? That was cool and all, but let me go to my bag up pick.
just make sure your
And
backup school isn't an SEC school.
exactly, exactly. Which it will not be. It will not be. And like so for the using that example, so that's when all of that comes into play when you're picking where I'm at is you get to kind of dictate where you want to go.
Okay.
Like, of course, I would love to get Florida State, but Shoddy held on to them, and that's what's up. But outside of that, you can kind of dictate where you want to go. Like, hey, option one or option two is not good for me because X, Y, and Z is in the conference, or this, that, and the other. So let me go with option three.
Okay. What about you, Doc? What range would be the
Well,
perfect spot for you and why?
and I like where I'm at. I like the mid 40s, mid 50s, just because with those teams, there's no pressure, right? Like, I don't care about playing with the big teams. I don't like, I, I just like the teams where like they're all together. So no matter what choice I pick, I'll enjoy it, and that's kind of what I did with Oregon State. I picked them. I think I was like 48th or something when I drafted them, and I enjoyed playing with them, so I stuck with them. When you get down that far, you kind of and not that the in mid 50s is like at the bottom of the barrel, but when you get down there, there's all the teams are kind of the same. You're just kind of picking and choosing, and I think that's where fit comes in is when you get these lower teams and what they can do. And so I like it where there's no pressure. Like that top 25 pick, I don't envy you, Sammy, because if you don't get your first choice, then now what? You know what I mean? And there's a little bit more pressure the closer you are to being able to draft, I don't know, Florida State over Tulane, right? So it's just finding that spot for me where like I don't think I could go wrong and picking down at that level. So I'm happy where I'm at. There's
Well,
good enough teams that like if you have a schedule you can be competitive, but they're also not enough that's gonna make you go, I'm probably gonna have a horrible season.
I well, I'll get back to you on how I feel about your opinion about my pick, Doc, in a couple of days. Um,
But it is. It's just for me. It's tough down there. You know what I mean? Like you have your heart set on maybe two or three teams, and all of a sudden they're all gone, and now you're stuck with some kind of mid tier, high conference team that you'll be okay with, but like your dreams and hopes were just shattered in front of you, and now you're left with something you probably don't want, and then you're probably going to take something that you don't like because of where you're at. So I like being down at the bottom towards the end where everything's a little bit more balanced and your mistakes really don't bite you as bad as they could if you were drafting up higher.
yeah, I'm actually gonna agree with you, and I'll give you another reason why. Being at the end of day one or at the beginning of day two is definitely not a terrible spot by any means. Vic hit on
Oh,
one point that I like a lot, and I got to experience this with New Mexico, and I just experienced it last season with Florida State. Leaving those teams, or well, getting to New Mexico and then getting to Western Kentucky. I guess keep it the same. You get to see the board play out in front of you. So there's teams that I had an eye on, and I got to watch how things played out and then decide if I wanted to still go that route or not. Because when you're picking higher, you don't really get to factor that in. Everything is happening after you. You get the team you want, if you pick number 7. But then everything else falls in after. So you're picking based on the team, not who you're projecting is going to take other teams that are in your conference or on your schedule in terms of out of conference rivals. When you pick that far, like in the middle part of the draft, a lot of that stuff is already slotted. So you get kind of a better picture. Think of it like a jigsaw puzzle. More of the puzzle is put together the farther you fall in a draft. Sure, you may not have as many great teams, but you're still going to have good teams later on in the draft and definitely some sleeper teams based on their situation. It could be a team with a 2-win goal, like Kent State. It could be a team like maybe Fresno State, who has a great running back, someone that you can build an offense around, or someone that draws a lot of attention that you can play off of on offense. Different players can potentially be stars and cause havoc within a smaller conference in the mid-major land. So I look at
Yeah.
someone like when I look at the draft order, the first guys that came to mind was looking at Big Mike picking at 60 because we know he's talked about Indiana and how that went. But the fact that Mike potentially could go into the G5 absolutely scares me and probably will scare people in the conference. Weasel with his offense, if he decides to go the G5 route, that's scary. CG the same with his offense. And then you've got Kemp lurking down there. He's still going to get to choose a team and he's still going to be playing in, the with mid majors. I can't imagine a power conference school falling that far down. But you're still going to be in a situation where now that the you're not playing against the Texases, the Bamas, the Georgias of the world. G5, I really do feel like as someone who's played a good chunk in the power, with power schools or in power conferences and outside of them, it does feel like a different game. And having a pick there when you're really getting to say, hey, I can lock in on what I'm looking for and find that team that fits it, but I'm also not playing against elite, not saying coaches, but just saying talent in terms of the rosters that you're facing. It makes for an interesting scenario because if you do want to go the power route, everything's laid out for you. Most of the conferences are already going to be filled. You know who you'll be playing. You know who the rivalry games will be against. Your info is there. I just feel like drafting in the middle of the draft, that end of day one, beginning of day two, is actually a really good spot. Like, I'm not going to trade my spot, but I think that's a really ideal spot to pick at.
Yeah. I'm with you. I like that spot. It's just, and to kind of just back up what you're saying there with the coaches and, you know, not the elite teams or not the elite coaches, but you're always, in my opinion, you're always guaranteed a good game at that level because nothing really separates those teams. A 70, Oregon State was a 78, and then, I lost to Kent State, and it was a good game. Like, there wasn't anything that as we played that game, like EA didn't do anything crazy, or it was just a good game. And I like the games that are on that end more than I would like the games on the other end. So I just think that you find that those more even matchups, and they're a lot more fun.
I tend to agree with that. Now, I
Yeah.
know Vic has some news that he wants to drop. We're going to hold off for just a second. I got one more question that I want to ask you guys. So, you're drafting and you have your draft board. I don't know why you have it filled out for, 60 teams or, you know, 35 teams. And every team that you have on your list gets picked. So you literally have nothing to go off of. Your 5 minutes are up. What are you doing? You don't have to give me a specific team, but just what's the mindset? Your draft board, everything that you prep for the draft is gone right before your pick. And now you're on the clock. You got 5 minutes to pick a team. What are you doing?
Well, I kind of already hinted at it. If all the teams I wanted on my list are gone, I'm going to the new Pack 8.
Okay, Doc.
I I've learned my lesson from the first version back that I'm going to have a good number of teams, and my ability to scrimmage over the next 5 days, I'm making some time for. to make sure that I have the right choice. Because again, when you get down to this, when you get down there, there's going to be teams. But I have an emergency team that I would take, and it's a team that, like Vic says, it would be in the new pack 8. So that's just kind of my emergency team that I think would still be there regardless. So um, that's where I'm at.
Lingus has a he has a suggestion. Asking Chat GPT what team to pick. Just trust the AI.
Hell no.
Well, I
You know
can tell
what?
you what, it sucks when you're stuck in that situation. Go ahead. Doc.
Hey, AI gonna tell you to pick Akron. Get the fuck out of here. Eastern Michigan. Oh, okay. All right. All right, AI.
What were you going to say, Doc?
I'm asking them right now. And I
You know
draft
what? I'm gonna do it too. I'm gonna do it too. You know what?
59th. Who
Well, while
do
you guys are doing that, let me say, being stuck in panic mode sucks because I've had to panic pick twice because I wasn't prepared enough. One of those seasons was season 24. I took USC and I went 5-7, and it was a hilarious season because I did not want them and I didn't know who to pick and I was panicked. So I just looked at the ratings and like I think this is the best pick. I'm gonna take them, and it was a disaster from start to finish. It's actually pretty funny. Um,
So I got my list,
okay.
and my list was Air Force,
Oh.
Fresno State, and Oregon State. And yeah, Chat GPT sucks.
I told you. I told
So
you.
then it says the art of a pick strategy, which they was like, go by the win goal, go by your conference goals, and then any rivalry games that you have. So, you know, but those are the 3 teams he gave me:
Air Force.
Air
My
Force,
God.
Fresno State, and Oregon State. And I mean, who knows if Oregon State's back? I mean, the Oregon State is on my list. Why I
It
don't
just
know,
it
but maybe
gave
I
me
won't. You know, maybe they're
it
my
gave
emergency team. I don't know, but
it gave me a list of like 12.
Hmm.
give us the top. Give us the top 3.
It gave me some shit I'm not gonna be able to draft. It said Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. Get the fuck out of here. Then Texas. And then it said Miami, Florida. That just made me throw up. Penn State, and then West Virginia.
Uh,
And
Well,
then it said UCF, SMU, App State, and Tulane.
hmm.
wow.
Okay. Give me some G5 options. Well, let me segue to
Half
this
those
then.
things is already
Let me segue to
hell.
this then. A lot of people enter the draft, and there's a chance that a group of people will go back and pick the team that they were just at. At what point, when you're going through the draft process and you're watching the board fall, do you consider going going back to the school that you just had?
I'm not going back to West Virginia.
All right, easy answer. Doc?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry. I was reading something.
Okay, so if you're
I
in
apologize.
the draft, you have your draft board about where like teams where you want to go. And as you're
Yeah.
watching your pick get closer, at what point would you consider going back to the team that you had? Doesn't necessarily have to be specifically Oregon State, but just speaking as a coach, like I left this team entering the draft. At what point would you
It
consider,
could be
maybe
any
I'll
team
go
we
back?
picked in the past.
Yeah,
It could be
like
any team we
just in
picked.
general
Oh,
speaking.
okay, okay.
I'll go first
I
because
mean,
I'm
Uh,
thinking like,
I'll answer the question off of Oregon State.
Okay.
I would literally have to be. They would literally be second to the last on my list to take.
Well, West Virginia's not on my list to take. So, um, one of the teams in my past, I would have to be picking very low for that one.
Okay.
But in the last two versions, the only three teams that I've had were Virginia, Mississippi State, and Tulane, and I would pick none of them over again. So
I I will say that, like, look, I'm 100% not going back to Western Kentucky because the four teams that I'm looking at, one of them will be there. I would say that the what would make me consider it though is if I'm watching teams that I want get picked and I'm having some indecisiveness on like debating team A or B or A, B, and C. At least I know that I played with this team. I understand over the course of the season how to play with them now. Instead of having to potentially learn a new thing. 'Cause you have to remember, I don't really scrim. I think this entire time that we've been back in the NDL, I've had two scrimmages, one against MGR and one against IROC. That's it. So for me to pick a team, I'm picking them knowing that I'm likely going to have to learn how to work with them and hope that it happens in the cup so that I'm prepared once week one hits for the one block one opens. That would be something I would consider because, hey, I can go back to the school because I don't have to go through that process of learning them. I already learned over the course of 12 to however many games, if you include the cup, 12 to 18 games. I never go far in the cup. So I have an understanding of how I play with them. It's just like hopping back on riding a bike. I understand what happens. You get a little bit of an advantage maybe because other people have to learn how to play with teams within that conference. I get to come right back and say, hey, I already know this roster. I know what works and what doesn't work. Cool. Let's go. I think that'd be the only thing I would consider. But a lot of teams that I would be looking at, like I'd have to be at a situation where I'm really unsure of the teams on my list. So it's more just falling back on something that's safe.
See, there's two things. One is a question, one is a statement. See, you'll be the most likely one to go back because me and Doc scrim. So it's like we were saying, and like I was saying, oh, I'm gonna have fit with my team. I'm gonna play with the teams that I got an idea of drafting. I'm going to play with those teams. So it's like I'm gonna play in the scrimmage in those teams. So I'm gonna have a general idea. I'm not gonna be worried about A, B, and C because I didn't play at least like 2 or 3 games with A, B, and C. So
Fair.
I'm gonna know my confidence level with those. But since, like I said, since you say you don't scrim and stuff, I can see you most likely going back to a team you've had if you had to.
Yeah, that
And
would be
the
the consideration. Because most of the time you enter
and
the
the
draft
question,
expecting to lead.
yeah, yeah, you're right, you're right. And the question I had was you mentioned the cup. Out the three of us, who's went the farthest in the cup?
I have a sub 500 record, so it can't be me. It's just straight up. I know it's not
I
because
think
I
I do too, but I had one run. Doc.
Doc.
that's not me.
Oh, damn.
I've made it out
How
of
far
group
did
play
you?
a
How far
couple
did
times
you?
though.
What's that?
Have you made it out of group play?
I think one time.
Damn.
Yeah.
I made it out of group play twice. What was the furthest you went, Sam?
I don't even want to
Can't
lie.
remember.
It would definitely be back in a certain era in my coach career, and I wouldn't remember because
God.
I've only, in my time in the NDL, it's very rare that I keep a team more than one season. And there's been a couple of teams that I have kept for more than one. So we can scratch Florida State because I know I didn't advance in the Cup in season 33. But I'm pretty sure with Michigan and Nebraska, I was able to advance out of group play. Definitely a handful of times, I'd imagine, especially with Nebraska, because that's my longest dynasty. So I assume just if I'm not screaming, it's the same team. I've had it like for 2 game cycles. I would imagine that I had success in the cup. That's probably when I had my most, but overall sub 500, pretty trash.
Yeah, we've all been pretty bad. I had one little run in 33. I went to the Sweet 16, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I've made it to the Sweet 16, and
Yeah, I normally
I think
use
Mike
Cup
is
just
responsible for stopping my best cup run. I want to say that my best season in the NDL, I beat him in the regular season, but he beat me in the cup. So it's like
Oh man.
at least I'll like if I'm
Uh,
gonna take one of the wins, I'll
I,
take the regular season win. But then he got me in the cup.
yeah, it was 33 because this person was in the league. That's who stopped me. Jumper stopped me in the Sweet 16. He had Duke. He had Duke.
All right. Well, I guess we can normally end it with the ball knower fact. I feel like you have something that you want to tell us, Vic.
Yeah, I kind of teased it in the live chat earlier. Because you, as soon like the timeline of events is crazy. It really was. We were speaking in I was speaking in the live chat, and then the news came to me from reliable sources. News came to me, and then soon after the news came to me, here comes Sammy. Y'all want to drop an episode today? Yeah, yeah. After this news I just got, yeah, let's drop an episode. Yeah, let's definitely do that. So I'm not gonna reveal too much. I'm gonna keep people guessing. Um, but there is unless, and I'm gonna keep people updated next pod and see if it's still a thing because people can change their mind and they have the right to. So I'm not even tripping about that. But there is a CFP coach that will go that will pick a team in the G5 in the draft. That is the breaking news. I'm not going to name the coach. I'm not going to name the team because, people are people. But I can reveal that unless that person changes their mind throughout the week. And like I said, I'll update it on the next pod on Wednesday. It will be a CFP coach that will draft a G5 team in the upcoming draft.
And I will say nothing. So, um, and it is interesting you say that because there's a lot of times stuff changes.
Hmm.
So, life changes. Your what you decide to do in the game may change as well. So it'll be
Hmm.
interesting to see. But as we get closer, yeah, I guess we'll find out. But that'll be it for us for tonight. Really looking forward to the next episode. Because the next episode, we're going to be focused a lot on the G5, and we're going to be more in depth. We're going to be looking at teams. So, like I said, I have a list of about 25 to 30 teams. I don't know, between now and then, Doc, Vic, what you guys have, but we'll start looking at teams in general and see some teams going by conference and maybe by some other metrics that I'm really curious to see where they get picked at. We can give you the why of why we think it'd be a good fit, in terms of, why you would pick this team, but teams that I'm curious to see who they fall to. But there are a lot of good teams across the mid-major land to take a look at, and man, they're going to be happy to have some coaches come their way. But we'll end it there for tonight. So thanks for you guys listening. Doc, appreciate you taking time. Vic, appreciate you taking time.
Yeah.
Sign
So
off
for
for
us.
now.
All right.
All right.